Gallup organization, who polls lots of different peoples and organizations, came out with a study a few years ago that really alarmed many people. And it was about workplace engagement. It found that 33% of the American workforce are actively engaged at work, and 50% were disengaged. And furthermore, 80% of people were either actively looking for another job or were open to other job possibilities. That's staggering, because one of the most important aspects as a leader is motivation and how do you have better workplace engagement. Today, we're going to explore the two main ways of motivating employees. You know, one of the challenges of being a leader is that we move from being an individual contributor to having to manage other people. Success becomes a little more blurry, whereas before, success looked like I got 5 things done today and I got tick the box. Whereas a leader, I'm not really sure what I did today. I kind of tried to put out a few fires or try to motivate people. And when you come back to it, that word motivation is key. How do I motivate other people? Today, I want to look at the two main ways that we motivate people. They're extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. And when you understand each of those terms and which one is more important when it comes to the workplace, you'll be a better leader and better able to motivate other people. Why do people do what they do? Why do they behave the way they behave? What motivates them? Well, that has been a question that so many different psychologists and industrial psychologists have tried to get to the bottom of it. I think it's good for us, if we want to understand motivation, to think of that in two different ways, two different types of motivation. One is extrinsic motivation, and the other is intrinsic motivation. One of them is much more important when it comes to employee engagement, and let me tell you up front now, it's intrinsic. So let's explore each of those, and let's expand a little bit more on intrinsic motivation, on what it is and how you might develop it in the workplace. So the first is extrinsic motivation. What does that mean? Well, that means motivating people and people being motivated by something that is outside of themselves, extrinsic to themselves. Now, there are many great examples of extrinsic motivation in the workplace. Probably some of the most popular are bonuses, extra days off, appreciation. All of those are extrinsic to us, and they are great motivators. However, as psychologists have really explored the human person and really what makes for longer lasting motivation, what we've discovered is that intrinsic motivation is more popular. So let's explore exactly what intrinsic motivation is and how we might plant some of those seeds in the organizations that we work for. So if extrinsic motivation is something that happens outside of us, intrinsic motivation is something that bubbles within us. So intrinsic motivation involves something that is addressing our psychological needs at work and motivates us because of the psychological benefit we receive. What psychologists have found is that this is a much more potent motivation when it comes to asking for workplace engagement and having a more satisfied workforce and a more productive workplace. So let's look at 8 different aspects of what intrinsic motivation looks like. So the first is autonomy. Some people really love having autonomy in the workplace, having more space for them to make decisions, for having more power to organize their day, to having more flexibility to perhaps organizing their workplace. Very often when workplaces are more flexible in work hours, it leads to higher satisfaction, because people can balance their lives a little bit better, and also it motivates them to work the times that they want to work. Now you may be saying to me, whoa, hold up a minute. Isn't this a recipe for chaos? Well, obviously we have to have some boundaries. It can't be carte blanche. But I think there are many ways that organizations are learning to introduce some more flexibility when it comes to giving people autonomy over the work that they do, how they do it, and when they do it. The second element of intrinsic motivation is knowledge and growth of knowledge. People really appreciate and are thankful when they feel that their knowledge base is increasing. So are there opportunities for personal development and growth? Are there opportunities at work for people to expand their knowledge? Are there opportunities perhaps to be coached? You know, I've been an executive coach for many years, and I can remember when coaching was introduced to many organizations, it was seen as a punishment. It was only for the bad employees who were doing something wrong so that they could be coached to changing their ways. And now companies that are embracing a coaching culture are companies that see coaching as a wonderful opportunities for one-on-one and team development within their organizations. And employees are seeing it as an investment within them because coaching is not inexpensive. So look at ways that employees can grow and develop through education and coaching on the job. Another element of intrinsic motivation is purpose and meaning. You know, it's really important for organizations and leaders to really delineate, to spell out, to make incredibly clear what purpose each person has in the organization, and to spell that from top to bottom in the organization. What do I do? How does it impact the overall organization? And why is my role incredibly important? You'll know great organizations that have really worked on this if you stop an employee and you ask them what they do, and they are able to tell you not only what they do, but how that fits into the bigger picture. When people feel part of the bigger picture, they have more meaning in their work, and meaning and purpose is intrinsically motivating. The fourth area is responsibility. It's a little bit of a subset of education. But are there opportunities for employees to take more responsibility? You know, every organization has a language around failure. Are people able to experiment? Are people able to make mistakes? And what you find in organizations that embrace a culture of taking a risk, of the ability to fail and learn lessons, are organizations that really are tapping into intrinsic motivation. Because most employees want to be able to grow, to take more responsibility, but with more responsibility comes a little bit of risk. And therefore the culture has to support that risk. The culture has to say, it's okay, take more responsibility. And if you fail or if something goes wrong, we're going to learn from that and you're going to grow as an employee. That's a clear example of intrinsic motivation. Employees who are working on a project that has a long time frame, it's really important for them to feel that progress is being made, that the work that they are doing has meaning towards the completion of that progress. And so therefore, in situations where employees are working on these long projects, take moments and time to celebrate different milestones, to let them know that there is progress, that each and every day, this long-term goal that they're looking at is being reached. Number 6 is accomplishment. So whenever milestones are reached, whenever projects are complete, it's really important to do two things. One is to celebrate, to take time to celebrate this milestone in the organization. And the second thing is to really once again revisit the impact that this project has. What's the impact for the organization? What's the impact for the client on the receiving end of the project? All of these are great examples of intrinsic motivation. Number 7 is recognition. Now, I know what you're saying. Isn't that extrinsic motivation? Very good. It can be, but it also can be intrinsic. When someone is recognized, it's an opportunity for them to experience value, to experience that they are of value to the organization, to experience this feeling that they are a key player in the organization, that what they do has importance. So recognition, yes, can be an extrinsic motivator, especially when we give gifts, but it also can be an intrinsic motivator because it wells up within the person this feeling that they are part of something bigger and that their work has meaning and value. Finally is social interaction. You know, we often hear about the bad things about work and about the people that annoy us. But most people who spend so long at work also want to be motivated. They want to be part of a collective of people who are brainstorming, who are coming up with great ideas, who are achieving something more than they could as individuals. So if we can have a positive workplace experience with opportunities for social interaction, that can be incredibly motivating and an intrinsic way to employees. There we have it. The two forms of motivation, extrinsic, intrinsic. And what we know is that intrinsic will have a longer impact. Now, many people think that salary is incredibly important. But let me tell you what the research is. The research is once you pass the minimum wage, salary becomes less and less important, and intrinsic motivation becomes more and more important. So if you're a leader, if you're new in your position, if you're supervising, say, for the first time, and you're wondering how to motivate or how motivation plays part in the life of the people you're supervising, why not think of what you're doing and asking, is it extrinsic or is it intrinsic? And if you found this video interesting, I invite you to watch the next video when we talk about different ways of trying to help people be motivated in the workplace. So today we've covered a whole list of different ways that motivation shows up in the workplace. But you know what? I'd love to hear from you. How are you motivated in the workplace? Did any of these intrinsic or extrinsic motivators resonate with you? Why don't you just take a moment, make some comments about what are your most powerful motivators, and let's start a little discussion, which I think can be really rich and helpful into how we're better able to introduce motivation in the workplace. And if you found this talk helpful, why not view the next video, which looks at practical ways that we can have a workplace which is motivating for employees.